Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at how we can work with keyboard input in a Java GUI situation. I have one of my debug ducks right here. You can see with my hand on it on the screen, and you can see that I can move this cursor or I can move my mouse around using my keyboard. My mouse, as you can see, is just staying presently right there on there, and I'm using different keys to make that happen so I can do different events and have different things happen as I go through and perform these different actions. And so we can do all sorts of cool stuff. I can use the up and down arrow keys. I've got all sorts of stuff that I can do to make that happen. You can see that it reports the information as to where the X and Y values are of the actual duck that I'm looking with. And so that's reporting for the top left corner of this image. And so I just have a transparent image that I'm using this to go along with that. And so I just have that going over. And as you can see, every time we move over, it says, oh, I'm going to move that over to that amount by 5, going left, down, up, right, whatever. And as I get to the point where it's at the end, it's like, oh, I'm at that back point, so I can continue moving the model of that data back, but the actual image I have locked, so it can't go further than that, so I can see what happens as I go through there. So there's a different impact on what happens with the associated values when I work with going beyond that specific value. But we'll take a look and see what we can do to make that happen and how we can go that with code. So let's go ahead and take a look at the lecture for this. The first thing we have is there's some vocab we have to worry about when we're talking about this. We have key binding, key listeners, the action map, input maps, key events, focus, keystrokes, and VK underscore dot, 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 dot. So those are things you're going to be looking at as you actually go through this. So make sure you keep that vocab in mind as you're looking to see how we can actually work with a keyboard and use that inside our code. So keyboard-based interactions. You want to make your GUI work with the keyboard. You've got a couple different options. We can either use the key listener, which is the older and more bare bones approach, and it just requires us to implement 3 specific methods. Or we can do the key binding, which is the more swing way to do it, and it has a lot more availability to do more complex and big interactions. And we do that by creating actions that are linked with both an input map and the associated action map. And we'll take a look to see how we can make that happen here in just a sec. So if we're going to work with the listener, it's just like when we're working with a mouse listener. We have 3 methods we have to implement as part of a keyboard listener. And because it has 3 methods, we can't use a lambda. I know, tears, so sad. But all of them have a key event as a parameter. We have key pressed, key released, and key typed. Key pressed is your finger is on the key. Key released, guess what? Yep, that's right. The finger is off the key. And then key typed is only good for typing-based interactions. So if you're trying to do something like a game or like moving a cute little duck around, it's not going to be anything you're going to work with. So key typed is basically don't use. Binding, however, is a little bit different approach. A binding is when we're going to have some private classes that extend the class abstract action, and each of those actions need to perform the action performed method. So just like when we're doing a, say for example, anonymous inner listener for a button, those have the required method of action performed as part of that. So that's going to have to be there for each of those anonymous classes. The big advantage on using binding, we don't have to actually focus the code, but that's not really a big deal, so no big deal for that. We just have to add those, once we create those classes, we just have to add the key to the input map and then map the associated action with the appropriate key to the action map. And we'll take a look at how we can do that as well. Now your basic keys are all the keys that you see on your keyboard, and each key can be accessed from the key event with a VK underscore and then the name you're looking like VK underscore 0, VK underscore A. And so I can simply just talk to the key by using that as the actual name for it. So key event dot VK underscore whatever we're working for. It's just a constant that's built into the key event as which key we're talking about. So it's just an int that's stored in there, but that's how I actually talk to each individual key is that VK underscore prefix. We also have our special keys. This is where Alt, Shift, Control, and the meta key. Now the meta key on a Windows box is the Windows key. The meta key on a Mac box is the cool Command key. So just as an FYI, if you're looking for how to talk to the Windows key on that, you look for the meta key, and that's how you actually reference that inside your code. You also have your function keys living in this space, aka the FN and then the number that's on it, depending on your keyboard, if you have them or if you don't. Or if you're working with a really old clickety-clack keyboard, you'll definitely see those on either the left-hand side or on the top above all the numbers. You can also use these special keys for some really more complex interaction because you can mask the results with this and associate that in doing more complex code. So let's go ahead and take a look at the basics of a key listener, and then we'll take a look at the basics of a binding, and we'll go look at the actual code to see what happens as we do this. So here we have our key listener example. So inside my panel, I have a this.add key listener passing a new key listener anonymous class just like normal. And I have my 3 methods I need to work with. I have my key typed, which I don't use, so I just have an open instead of squiggles for that. My key pressed, where I have the key event press as the parameter. I say keys.add, and I ask the key code from that, and keys in an array list, and keys is a set of capital I integer type, so I can have that on there. And because it's a set, I can only have one of each value in there, so there's always unique values. Pretty good, I know. And then I call the movement method, which is over on the right. And then in my key released, I do keys.remove, and I pass it the associated key code. So when I lift my finger up off the key, it removes that associated value from the keys set data structure that I can use and reference through this. And that's where we see this over here in the movement method. And so that's where I'm going to move the thing around. And so I call for each integer key inside keys, if the key is the key event underscore VKW, or the key is equal to key event VK up. So I can talk about any different thing I'm looking for. This is the W or the up key, or the A or the left, the S or the right, or the Z or the down keys. And as you can see, I'm calling the associated move duck method, passing it up, left, right, or down, so I can grab that information and make that happen. And so my movement's simply being bound to that and using that information. So I ask which key I'm talking about using the constant in there, like VK underscore W ASZ, or VK underscore right, left, down, up. So I can ask for that. And so that's when I'm using a key listener. That's for very simple based interactions when we're talking about using just simple things with a keyboard, like one key at a time. I can also do a bindings example right here where I have a left action. And so my left action extends abstract action. And as you can see right here, I have an action performed, action event E, and I move duck left. And then I have left down action, which also extends abstract action. And I have inside there, it's just move duck left and move duck down. Where we really see the difference and where we see the benefit of using the bindings type is how we can actually do this. So inside my setup listeners method, I can just do the simple one like with H and J where it's moving move left or move down. I have the associated key of there of move left, which maps the input map and the action map to the same value. And then that left action is what's a call to it. So it's like, oh, new left action will go to there and it's going to go up inside that and it's going to call move duck and left. So I can reference that information directly from there. I can also build more complex values right here where I have got keystroke shift space K. And so that's going to go left and down. Oh, and so that shift space K, the lowercase shift and then the keyword, the letter K in caps, allows that to say, oh, if I'm pressing the shift key and the K key, I'm going to go left and down at the same time. Or the other option, like I was saying, is we using the mask approach. I can do keystroke passing it VK underscore 0 and then an input event passing it meta down mask, aka the command key at the same time. So if I'm pressing command and 0, it's going to go up and right at the same time. And so that's how I can make it so I can do multiple things on that. And so by using the binding style, I can really create some really complex keyboard-based interactions. So I can have multiple different keys being worked and pressed at the same time and then associate that with that. So let's take a look at which one we want to use. So if you want to use the key listener, if you're just doing some really a quick project or you just want to have a quick setup for that, all you have to do is just do the add key listener and just do the anonymous class and those three required implemented methods. It's good for a quick setup and it's really good for simple processing. The bindings is the choice if you have a really complex interaction. You want to do a lot more work with that. There is some setup work that has to happen. You have to have the private classes and the associated action and input maps you have to link inside your setup listeners as well. But the benefit of having that extra setup in the front means you can do more complex and advanced things later on. I hope this is a great way you can take a look and see how you can do some cool stuff with this and see how you can work with using the key listener. Again, always take a look at the API. You can see more details on this. I hope this is helpful. Cheers and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.